The moment you stop reacting to a narcissist, something changes in their eyes. A flicker, panic almost. That's the reply they can't survive. It's not an insult. It's not even a sentence half the time. And it's only the first of 7. Stay with me. This is wisdom of the Stoics, ancient philosophy aimed at the hardest people in your life. Here's the one thing you need before we start. The Stoics never used the word narcissist, but Epictetus described the type perfectly 2,000 years ago. A person who lives entirely inside their own reflection, immune to any fact that doesn't flatter them. He said you cannot argue such a person into seeing you, because they were never looking at you in the first place. That single idea changes the whole game. You stop trying to be understood. You start protecting your own judgment instead. Here's the part most advice gets wrong. It tells you to fight harder, prove your point, win the exchange. The Stoics would call that handing over your peace of mind for free. Marcus Aurelius, running an empire, surrounded by people who wanted a reaction out of him daily, kept coming back to one distinction between what is yours to control and what never was. Someone else's need to be right was never yours to fix. 7 replies built on exactly that line, starting with the easiest person to say them to and ending with the one that actually costs something. Response 1. The coworker who has to win every meeting. You say, "I won't be discussing this further," and you mean it. No slammed door, no raised voice, just a closed loop. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a wise man wastes no time arguing about what good behavior looks like. He simply behaves well and moves on. A narcissist's whole strategy depends on you supplying an audience. Restate, reframe, escalate, repeat until you crack. The second you stop supplying that audience, the performance has nowhere to go. Watch their face when it happens. That flicker from the opening line. That's what it looks like. Picture the meeting where they took credit for your idea, then acted wounded when you pushed back, then tried to reopen the whole thing over email an hour later, CCing your manager for good measure. The old you replies to that email, defends the timeline, provides receipts. The Stoic version reads it once and closes the laptop. "I won't be discussing this further" isn't sent as a reply at all. It's just true, silently, and the email sits there unanswered until it stops mattering, because you decided it already had. But a coworker is easy to walk away from. Family isn't. Response 2. The sibling who rewrites history mid-argument. That's not how I remember it. 4 words, delivered flat, no evidence attached, no debate invited. Seneca spent an entire letter warning against handing your own clarity over to whoever argues the loudest in the room. This line doesn't win the memory war. It refuses to enter it. You are not correcting them. You're simply declining to let their version quietly become the only version. This is the one that gets tested at Thanksgiving, where suddenly you're the one who started it. You're the one who's always been sensitive. You're the one rewriting a childhood everyone else remembers fine. You don't need 3 witnesses and a timeline to survive that room. You need 4 words, said once, said calmly, and then a genuine willingness to let the sentence just sit there unfinished. Notice something. Neither of those replies asked for permission. That pattern gets harder to hold the closer someone sits to you. Response 3. The friend who treats disagreement as betrayal. I hear you, and I'm still going to do what I think is right. Marcus Aurelius kept a private list in his journal of people who challenged him, and he never once wrote that he owed them his agreement, only his attention. A narcissist will read any pushback as disrespect because their identity can't survive being wrong in front of you. This line gives them the attention. It withholds the surrender. Full stop. No apology tacked on the end. No, but you might have a point, softening the exit. It's the shortest sentence on this list, and it's the one people find hardest to say without flinching. You'll know it's working when the silence after you say it stretches a beat too long. They were expecting a negotiation. You gave them a closed door with a light still on behind it. Warm, not hostile, just final. Response 4 gets harder because now it's someone who signs your paycheck or shares your last name. Response 4. The parent or boss who picks the worst possible moment to fight. I'm not available for this conversation right now. Epictetus called the ability to choose your own engagement prohairesis, the one freedom nobody can take from you by force. Narcissists are timing specialists. They know exactly when you're tired, cornered, distracted, and that's when they strike, because a depleted opponent folds faster. This line isn't avoidance, it's a scheduling decision, made by you about when your best thinking gets deployed and when it doesn't. Say it once, calmly, and walk away before the second sentence tries to follow you out the door. It usually happens at 10 at night or 5 minutes before you walk into a room full of people, because that's when your guard is lowest and their leverage is highest. They've been doing this math for years, whether they'd call it math or not. You don't have to fight on their clock. You just have to refuse to set your watch by theirs. Here's where it stops being tactical and starts being personal. Response 5. Someone you've known long enough to actually feel sorry for. That must be difficult for you. This is the line people misuse constantly because, said with an edge, it becomes a weapon and the entire point collapses. Said with real, if distant compassion, it does something almost nobody expects. It drains the charge out of the room. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself over and over that people who hurt others usually do it out of confusion about what's actually good for them, not pure cruelty. That's not an excuse, it's a diagnosis, and a diagnosis delivered flatly ends more fights than any counterattack ever has. Say it to the person who needs everyone in the room to know how much they've suffered, every single time, no exceptions. Say it and mean it, and then say nothing else. You'll watch them search your face for the sarcasm they were braced for. It won't be there. That absence is the whole point. 2 left. Both of them go straight for the people closest to you. Response 6. The manipulation you can feel but can't quite name yet. I'm noticing that, and I'm choosing not to engage with it. Seneca believed that naming a trick, even silently to yourself, breaks most of its power immediately. Narcissists rely on tactics that work best in the dark. Guilt wrapped inside a compliment. Blame quietly reassigned mid-sentence. The instant you say the pattern out loud, 4 words, no elaboration required, you step outside it. You're no longer inside the manipulation reacting. You're standing next to it, watching it happen, which is exactly the distance Stoic philosophy spent centuries trying to build in people. You'll feel it before you can explain it, a compliment that leaves a bruise, a favor mentioned 3 separate times in one conversation, a joke at your expense that somehow makes you the one who needs to lighten up. Name it, once, out loud or just to yourself, and the trick stops working the same day you started seeing it. And now the one this whole video was leading to. Response 7. The person you actually love who still won't stop. I love you, and I still have to protect myself. Marcus Aurelius drew a hard line between what's yours to control and what isn't. Someone's character sits permanently outside that line. Your own boundaries sit permanently inside it. Loving a person and protecting yourself from their behavior were never opposites in Stoic philosophy. They were always meant to be held together at the same time, without either one canceling the other out. This line is rarely delivered with a steady voice. Most people say it through tears, or in a whisper, or in a text they rewrite 4 times before sending. It costs more than the other 6 combined, because it requires giving up the one fantasy that keeps people stuck the longest, the idea that enough love, applied for enough years, will eventually make someone capable of seeing you. There's a version of this said to a parent at 60, and a version said to a partner at 30, and a version said to your own reflection at 2 in the morning when no one else is in the room to hear it. All three are the same sentence. All three cost the same thing. And every single person who has ever said it and meant it will tell you the relief came first, before the grief did, not after. 7 replies. 1 coworker, 1 sibling, 1 friend, 1 parent or boss, 1 long history relationship, 1 hidden manipulation, 1 person you love. Notice the shape of that list. It doesn't stay in one room. It moves closer to you with every step, because that's how this actually works in a real life. The stranger is easy. The person across your dinner table is not. None of this becomes yours from watching a video once. Epictetus called daily practice ascesis, training, the exact word an athlete would use, because he meant it exactly that literally. Pick one line, just one. Use it this week in the smallest possible moment, not a crisis, just a normal conversation where the old pull to over-explain yourself shows up. Then come back and tell me what happened. You'll get it wrong the first time. You'll say the line and then, out of habit, tack on an explanation nobody asked for and undo half the work in the same breath. That's fine. Marcus Aurelius rewrote his own instructions to himself every night for years for exactly this reason, because knowing a principle and living it under pressure are 2 different disciplines, and only one of them counts. If one of these 7 landed somewhere specific for you, send it to the person who needs to hear it, not as an accusation, just as a door left open. Like this if depth is what brought you here. Subscribe if you haven't, because every video on this channel goes exactly this deep. And down in the comments, tell me honestly, which one of these 7 is hardest for you to actually say out loud? Not understand, say. I read every answer. Until next time, stay grounded, stay rational, and remember what Marcus Aurelius told himself on the mornings the world felt heaviest. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.